Hey everybody, Bill Ohm from MMPC Tech. I'm in Bloomington, Minnesota today at the Smart Computer Store. You've seen this place before with its awesome owner, Greg. Greg knows everything about everything when it comes to computer hardware.
Hi.
Legacy V6. And this is an ITX case that takes standard size ATX power supplies, Greg.
Wow.
Yes. You open that like a professional.
I've done this a few times, yes.
I see there's a 140 in the back, and it has an option for a 120. But why would you put a 120 if they give you a 140? Also,
Radiator?
True. Power supply extension. Although I'm gonna bet there's not enough space for a radiator in this one. I just don't think it's long enough.
Wow. 9.5 inches.
9.5 inches.
About 10. Since ITX board is, well, micro ATX is 9.6 by 9.6. So, 8 inches high.
I also see that the cover is one piece.
Yep. 4 screws. Nice enough to give you thumb screws.
They save in cost by making the cover just one giant piece instead of 3 individual pieces. Inwin used to do that a lot. They probably still do. Okay. How's it feel?
Good.
Solid? It's like it's not going to bend or...
Doesn't have little clips, it has fairly large clips. Ventilation on both sides.
Looks like there's
Looks like you could, in theory, clean the grills out. You'd have to bend them to do it, but they're probably designed to bend several times.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't want to do it on a daily basis, and it does have a nice handle to pull off when you remove it. Yeah. We've got ourselves hard drive mounts in the top.
SSD or 3.5 inch.
Yeah. Not sure you get too much ventilation out of there, but
Nice finish. Powder coat.
and this is one of those odd ones where the power supply goes in the front. So this
Oh,
cable
yeah.
goes all the way around here and back in.
That's like the Fractal Design 304. We'll do that.
Yeah, or the Bitfinex M.
Prodigy
Project
M, yeah.
M. It's like got another mount.
Definitely a lot of storage space.
And this
So
one
that
can
one's
go
very
either
movable.
way too.
Is that the side where the video card would be? Okay.
Wow, that'd be tight.
Well, you can take it out if you have to.
Yeah, you'd probably have to. Let's see how the front comes out. Oh. One of those. So your wiring, unfortunately, comes out with your front panel.
So what do we have? We have a 3.0 USB, headphone and mic jack, the power button, and a 2.0.
There
That's
again.
filtered.
Yeah, you'd have to blow this one out. I don't think you'd be taking this one off all the time. Besides the fact that with your wires stuck here, once you get them all the way, what are you going to be doing? That
Right.
maybe if you're
Exactly.
lucky.
Yeah.
Companies should learn to put these switches on the chassis so that the cover is, you know.
Right.
All they would do is go in reverse here. Screw this and set it to this onto this. And just leave it cut out like that.
I
They
would
don't
say
even-
those are 60s.
Yeah. That could make some noise.
Yeah, and just my observation, it's harder to find good 60mm fans versus 80mm. I mean, your chances are better with 80mm.
Hard to find 92 mil quiet
Yeah.
fans. So it's almost been 80 or 120.
You have to look at that as, well, it depends on what kind of system you have in here, but your compromise for noise level, if you want a little bit more air, but how much more air are those going to bring?
I don't know. They could have just ventilated it all the way across and actually got more intake. Because a 140, a single 140 has a lot of airflow for such a small case. They do have some ventilation here.
Plus, that power supply is going to be drawing air up to the bottom and out the back.
Well, and there's another flaw. You know, so if you've got a power supply with the intake on the bottom, it's going to be right above your CPU cooler that's also blowing downward. So they're fighting for the same air. So you almost have to put it upward. I mean, and they've only given you one way to mount it. So it is a good thing they rolled the edges on that.
Yeah.
Because it's gonna.
Boy.
The best thing to do, truthfully, and they're very hard to find, would be to find a power supply that has an intake on the back and an exhaust on the front. Then it will take this and then turn this one to intake. It will suck through and right out the front. That way it won't rob your air from your CPU cooler. And your CPU cooler would have to be a stock cooler. You wouldn't be able to fit anything else with that power supply in there.
3
Minus the board and the risers.
Oh yeah, so about
You're lucky to have,
2.5.
Yeah. I mean, that's your stock 3770K, 4570K, 40.
Yep.
i5, i3, i7.
Yep.
And that's about all you're going to get in there. These AMDs are even taller.
A couple of OEM coolers, AMD and Intel. That's kind of your options.
I mean, here's your standard 8-core. Look at how much taller that is. So if you, luckily they don't make Mini-ITX boards for FX series chips, so this probably wouldn't even fit. And can you imagine if you had?
You can't.
Can you imagine if you had a bottom intake on your power supply?
Oh yeah.
What would you do? You know,
It's just
you're
causing
fighting
turbulence.
The same area,
Yeah.
your cavitation.
Yep.
You know, the only thing you can really do, and I've done this several times, is take this fan and turn it over.
Yeah.
So it's actually lifting
Yep.
up.
I would do that.
But the problem is, like this one, for example, then you're only going to take air from the top edge here.
Right.
From there up, you'd have to build a plenum to force the air to come in the bottom, because otherwise it has no reason to go all the way down there and take the shortest path. So you'd overheat anyway. But a stock, you know, this is fairly small. This is your stock Intel i5, i7 cooler.
It would be nice if you had the option to put a small form factor power supply in here, if you wanted, to buy that extra space for a bigger cooler.
Yeah.
Versus just only ATX mounting. I mean, what they could do is they could have offered an adapter plate to mount that smaller power supply in that space. I've seen that done
I
before.
would have mounted it upside down. I would have given the option to mount it right side up or upside down. Then at least you're taking, yeah, it's warmer air, but it's fresh air coming out in the top and
Yeah.
out the back, or well, the front actually. And then your CPU cooler is on its own. It gets its own air from the rest of the case. Up here, just clear the motherboard now. Maybe even higher. Or if it were upside down, you could actually put it all the way up and have its intake on the top.
Yep. You know,
But then you can't.
that makes the most sense, and then draw air with the grill right there in the
Yeah,
cover.
we certainly could re-drill all these holes. So this one doesn't care which way it goes in there. So in theory, we could put this one in there upside down, and it would still have all the screw holes.
And that is what, AX 750?
It's yeah, right. You'd have a little, and you still have enough to get there with the cable.
Yeah.
And you know, you still have air. If you turn this fan around, you still have air washing across, going in and going out. And then underneath, you have enough for washing across your motherboard. I see that as the only solution, truthfully.
Yeah, it is much better than having to be like this.
So buy good power supplies.
Yep.
They can go right side up or upside down.
The more options, the better.
That's, well, yeah. If they want to be universal, they have to allow for universal fitment.
If you know of anybody that makes a good 60 millimeter cooling fan, low decibel, high airflow, post it as a comment.
PWM even. So the SSD is a solid mount, and the rotating mass platter drive has vibration dampeners.
Okay.
And probably they got M3s for your SSD. And you got 632nd for your hard drives, or your probably motherboard. The motherboard probably uses 4 of those.
And some fan screws, 3.5-inch hard drive screws, and some cable ties, and your V6 Legacy user manual, so you can get acquainted of everything included and the layout.
It's kind of weird. It's got 1 screw, and then you got, I don't know what it is.
Oh,
It's have to come all the way out. Oh, it's pinned on the left side. And your screws, which normally you'd put all the way through, so you put thumb screws. And they're nicely vented though.
What we have here is a new Gigabyte Z87N Wi-Fi ITX motherboard. So Greg's mounted an SSD and a 3.5-inch drive. We've got the AX750 in there and the Gigabyte ITX board with an Intel OEM cooler. And turn around to the other side so we can get a better view. Oopsie.
That's why I want to screw the board in.
One thing we don't have is a GPU, and so, but you have the option of removing this additional hard drive cage.
You're just not going to be able to put anything long in a video card either. Some of your smaller AMDs or the newer 560s and 650s, they make a shorter one that doesn't require external power. But anything in an older high-end card just won't cut it.
All right, Greg, what do you like about the Legacy V6?
Well, I like that it's black. I like it has rolled edges because I don't want to cut my hands on things. I don't like wires snagging on edges. You know, it's a pretty solid chassis, and I think the design is pretty clean.
I agree. I like the fit and finish of it. It's very well made. I was really impressed with the overall design. It's very subtle, yet classy and stylish. It would look really nice on, you know, your home entertainment rack if you're going to use it for media or whatever. So yeah, I definitely like the way it looks. I like the fact that it takes a full-size ATX power supply. However, with that comes a lot of compromises, and the biggest being is a selection of hardware for it.
Yeah, it has to be pretty specific. It's designed to be universal, but with that being so close to the power supply being too close to the CPU cooler, and the airflow in the case is kind of awkward.
Yeah, also, who really uses 60mm fans anymore?
I don't know. They're so hard to find, and to find a quiet one that has, you know, dual ball bearings that'll last.
I wouldn't even know what brand to recommend.
Yeah, I would have just gone with ventilation across the back.
Yeah, ventilation, or maybe, if possible, 80mm fans. At least that gives you a little bit more wider range of different fans to choose on the market. The price itself, I think, could be a bit more competitive than $69.99.
Yeah, I think there's competitors that make the similar items for around $50. You know, the Cooler Master Elite 110, which is a very similar design and allows you to turn the power supply upside down.
I would like to see that option that you could put the power supply upside down, or if they included a plate so you could, an adapter plate so you could mount a small form factor power supply in it instead and buy a bit more space.
Sure, and small form factor power supplies are coming around to the 450 watt mark, and they're starting to improve 80 plus designs, and you know, they'd be able to be right in the fitment of it and save some space.
Let us know what you find out for options for hardware. Just post the comments below the video. And I want to thank ROSEWILL for giving us the opportunity to look at the new Legacy V6. And thanks for watching the videos and subscribing.